in West Coast Vegeta. He is in the finals. I don't know if he's the youngest guy ever to be in the finals. I know that if he wins, he'd be the youngest. I think he'd be the youngest guy ever to win. So this coming morning, in just a few hours, we got B block, and let me get my B block notes. Where do I have them here? Here they are. So Taguchi's in with Kevin Knight. Neither of them are going to win. Titan is in with Nick Wayne. And then Yo is in with Taichi Shimori. Desperado's in with Robbie Eagles. So if Desperado wins, I mean, Yo is the one with the advantage. If Yo beats Ishimori, he's in the finals. Usually the way they book, that means he's probably not going to win the finals. If Yo loses, it's Yo Mao from Dragon, from DT, who's had a great tournament. Desperado, if Yo and Mao lose, Desperado's in. If Yo loses and Desperado loses, Mao is in, obviously. And there's a lot of other tiebreakers involved, where Robbie Eagles, Ishimori, Nick Wayne, and Sho have a chance to tie for first. So that would affect a lot of different things. But Sho has the best shot of all of them if Yo, Desperado, and Mao all lose. So, it's going to be another one of those things. I'm not sure who's going to really go to the finals there. I would not expect Mao. Desperado, I think it's better for him not to. I mean, Desperado's going to be wrestling the winner of the tournament anyway at Dominion. So I think it's better for him not to win the block. But we'll see.
All right, take us through these ratings.
Let's see. So I don't have all the details, but the Saturday Night's Main Event did really well. Way up from anyone before from the other two. So they were 1,900,000
1.97 million and a 0.54.
1,979,000 and an 0.54. Yeah, way up. And that doesn't even include the Peacock numbers. So exceptionally well. And I think that they had a cage match. They had Cena and they had Punk. And Cena and Punk are big draws when it comes to TV. Cena's a big draw when it comes to TV ratings, and Punk's a draw when it comes to TV ratings. And I think that tag match helped a lot. Cena being on the card, on NBC made a huge difference. And they better hope he makes a huge difference because he's going to be on SmackDown Friday. Obviously, we talked about it, but the SmackDown number, well, actually, SmackDown number hadn't come out, but SmackDown was 1,363,000 viewers and I believe 0.33. But it was the 1849 number was the second lowest not in the history of the show, because I think that there were a few with when they had when they were on FS1, there were ones that were lower. But as far as USA Network, since they went back on in the history of USA Network, the last run on USA or this run on USA, that would be the second lowest. The lowest was the night when they went against Tyson and Jake Paul fight, where they just got murdered that night for obvious reasons. So, in this one, obviously the number is because they went against the NBA and the NHL. So that's that. And then Raw, which would be not this last Monday's Raw, but the Monday before, it appears to have done the lowest number since they went to Netflix. It was the lowest number for hours, but it was also a shorter show, so that kind of factors into it. It was, there's three shows, which was the show before Elimination Chamber in February, and then the show on the 12th of this month, and the show on the 19th, and they're all pretty much the same as far as record lows. This one looks to be about 0.5% lower than the week before. It is I don't want to say it's probably the lowest. Those are the three lowest. By my calculations, it's the lowest, but the margin of error is such that those are surely the three lowest. But as far as the order, it could be any of them. But they're, you could look at it and go, it's like there was a point where we go like, what is the bottom? And
well, what is the story with Brandon Thurston's numbers? Because he's got numbers similar to last year at this time.
Okay, so
which seems reasonable. Like going below 1 million seems hard to believe.
I know it. Okay, so I'd have to actually go in. Brandon and I have actually discussed this. The problem is, and this is like a long explanation, but essentially Brandon is of the belief that the 2.7 million that they said as, total viewers is a real number, with 5.1 million hours viewed. The problem with that is that if you actually figure that out, because there's a live show that goes 2.5 hours, and then there's the commercial-free version where you skip through the commercials, okay? So that would tell you, to make those numbers work, then you would actually have to have 10% of the people who are watching, of all the people watching live, or else the numbers don't work, or else the numbers are faulty. I don't buy for a second that only 10% are watching live. And also, if only 10% are watching live, that's 270,000 homes worldwide, not even the United States. So you're talking about 270,000 homes. That's maybe 400,000 people max, and more than half are outside the United States.
What does it even mean to watch live? Because if you turn on Netflix at 5:01 and you hit start from beginning, you'll be watching the show 1 minute behind. And
so that's live.
That wouldn't be live. You'd be 1 minute behind.
But that would count as live if you're watching the show from that time. That would count as live. Are you watching the 2 hours and 30-minute show, or are you watching the 1 hour and 50-minute show? Actually, it was 1 hour 40 that last week. But which one are you watching? If you are watching it on that night during that period, and so just as an example, okay, so when they were on USA Network,
but if I start watching 2 hours in,
if you start
watching so I'm watching half live, and also I'm watching most of it not live.
Right.
Because so it's outside of that window.
So your number would be somewhere in between.
Okay.
If you're
so if I would count as one of the 90% not watching it live, even though I watched part of it live.
Right.
I mean, it's possible you could say 10% of people actually watched live. And didn't go over that line at the end.
Okay. On the first show, they claimed it was 100% live. Netflix itself, about a month in, they claimed it was 80% live. So if they were 80% live, how does it fall to 10% live? That's impossible.
People figure out if I don't watch it live, they'll skip the commercials for me.
Most people watch it live. I mean, as far as in the United States, now I can't say the rest of the world, but in the United States they do, obviously. Especially on the East Coast, in most of the country, because they're creatures of habit. You get used to watching it live. Even if you go in an hour late, you're still getting you're still going to get mostly the live number. So, I mean, yes, if you're going to a Nielsen number, okay, it is more than live, and it would be live and then the next couple of hours. Now, for historical purposes, when they were on USA, like I said, it was about 75% watched live. About 10% watched that night, but not live. And then there was where you could also skip through the commercials because you would DVR it. And then there was 15% who would watch over the next week. So those people would not be counted as Nielsen numbers. The 85% would. But this doesn't work unless the math just absolutely doesn't work. And even with that, if it's 2.7 million, but you're trying to tell me that essentially, to get to this number, that 270,000 homes all over the world are watching it live. That's preposterous and then 2.43 million are watching it on a delay, but almost all of them on the same night, because again, if you're trying to do a comparison with a Nielsen number, all those people who were watching it after, after midnight, essentially, on Monday night, those people weren't in the Nielsen, wouldn't count as Nielsen numbers anyway, as far as how we used to look at the Nielsen number, because those would be counted as DVR numbers. So the number we have, if, the number would be a DVR number. So essentially, that it doesn't add up, and, the way they do it doesn't add up, because you're basically saying nobody's watching live. And historically, again, people don't change from 80% in February to 10% in May. It's just, it doesn't make sense. Creatures of habit.
It doesn't make sense as doing under $1 million either. Especially if you look at WWE business, that doesn't make any sense that they're doing like 850,000 viewers.
But even and also my number actually is giving them credit for people who watch twice are still going to be counted twice. If you go back and watch, like if I go back, I'm always watching longer than the time, because I'm always going back and looking at stuff over and over again. I mean, that's not the average person, but there's plenty of people, if you watch and go watch again, you're counted as more than one. There's so many different things, as far as that goes. So, but I mean, I'm giving them credit for so much more than they would, and again, by their own number, it's 10% that would be watching live, and that's just, it's completely implausible. I mean, I'm not going to, and I give them, they claimed 80, so I had been using the 80 they claimed. I switched it to 70 because I'm trying to give them more numbers, because it was falling so low. And I did believe that there's a chance that probably people are starting to pick up and all that. But it can't be 10%. And if it is 10%, then their same day number, it's not like 10% are watching live, but 75% more, are watching right after, but not live, especially on the East Coast. Even on the West Coast, it's going to be a little bit lower, of course. But on the East Coast, those people have been watching live for years. I mean, it's not quite sports, but the whole thing of like when they have done other sports, like the Tyson and Jake Paul or whatever else. I mean, they haven't done a lot of sports, but I mean, as far as like with other sports, as far as other streaming services, like Peacock or whatever, or Max. I mean, those sports people, those sports are like almost all completely live. I mean, it's not like people go back and watch this stuff. Wrestling less, wrestling's more, like real sports, UFC or whatever, you're talking, 95 to 99% live. Wrestling has always been about 75%. You can't tell me it's 10%.
Well, you're also looking at a worldwide number, and what does it mean the same day? Because Raw starts at 1 a.m. in London. That gives 23 more hours to watch the show if you're counting the same day.
That doesn't count. We're talking United States numbers. I'm not talking London numbers. Nielsen never counted London numbers either. This is the U.S. number that I'm looking at. I'm trying to do a comparison with what Nielsen would rank it. Nielsen is same day United States. All those foreign countries, that doesn't count with Nielsen. Yeah. I mean, I didn't say that the number of people watching all over the world is under 1 million. No, it's just over 3 million.
Still find it very hard to believe that Raw's doing under 1 million viewers. Doesn't make sense.
I do too, but I'm giving them every benefit of the doubt. I'm using their own numbers. I'm using the way that they calculated it. You got to remember that they keep, again, when you're going from calculating your numbers with 80% live to 10% live, that's pretty fishy. But anyway, I give them, more benefit. I give them every bit of benefit, again. And also, there's India has just jumped in. So that's the other thing too, as far as like the February number was, they claimed 2.6 million. Okay. But that is a number pre-India. So the 2.7 million now, this worldwide home number, that they've done the last 2 weeks, that includes India. And India is about, was from what I was told, was between 175 and 200,000. So you're taking that down too. So, You know, I mean, it is the low. I mean, they're definitely the last 2 weeks have been the two lowest, though. Other than that February week, which, you know, could have been, you know, but again, those are the three lowest weeks. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how to calculate any differently because I'm using a lower number than they themselves claimed as far as live to give them the benefit of more. If I use their number for what the live thing is,